This is just a little video on successional cropping, which is timing your sowing and using different techniques to have cropping over a long period of time, over quite a few months, rather than having a glut at the end of the season in the autumn. So our named example is carrot. It fits well into this as an example of successional cropping. And please note, successional cropping and successional sowing are different things. Okay, early in the season, it's too cold to sow outside. So you could possibly have some heat in the greenhouse and sow some early carrots, such as Nantes, in a container. So we've got those, get started off in January. Come February, it can be a bit warm sometimes, a bit, the sun's a little bit stronger. So we could put some black plastic down in our vegetable bed, which is what this board here represents, to warm the soil, ready for a sowing in late February or early March. So choice of cultivar is important to stagger our crops. We're going to choose an early carrot, such as carrot early Nantes 2. Okay, and there's another early one here. This is Primo. It actually says on the back that you can sow January to February in a container. So Primo's an early one as well. So you can start sowing your early cultivars in March after you've warmed the soil, and then you can keep repeat sowing or successional sowing every 2 weeks. So little and often, rather than sowing 5 rows in March, you're going to do 2 first week in March, 2 the third week, 2 first week in April, and so forth. So you're going to do successional sowing. So I've got an early Nantes 5 there. So there's lots of different Nantes. I think I put Nantes in your notes, but Primo is that other one as well that we mentioned. So Nantes, Primo, and Nantes again. So I've had Nantes 2, Nantes 5. So we could carry on successional sowing right through to July actually. So let's just space those out. So we're sowing every 2 weeks. And another way to advance our crops, to stagger them a little bit, is to actually protect our first sowings with either some fleece, which will advance their growth or advance the cropping, or cloches. Either of those two will advance the growth, and you could put it on one lot of sowing and not on the next one, or you could sow 2 rows at the same time and protect one and not the other. But you're going to do that at the beginning of the season when it's cooler. So as we go through the season, we might then choose a different carrot variety, such as this one, which can only be sown April to June. More of a mid-season variety of carrot. That one's called Rainbow F1 Hybrid. So as we come towards the end of the season, we'll still have all our early Nantes are starting to be cropping in May, May, June, July, August. But we should also, sort of mid-season, start sowing some autumn or late varieties, such as Autumn King. And there is also an Autumn, an Autumn King 2. So again, we can do successional sowing of Autumn King every 2 weeks. And it's these autumn ones that don't mind the sort of the colder spell towards the end, and also they will store really well. So if you put them in clamps or leave them standing in the ground, as long as you haven't got a lot of pests in there, you can be still harvesting carrots through to December actually, or eating carrots through to December if you've picked them and stored them. So We'll start sowing our autumn ones. Well, we can sow them from March actually. Depends how much space you've got, but I tend to sort of sow them more mid-season. So they're sort of becoming ready later on in the season. And as it gets colder again, I'm going to protect all of my rows of carrots with either a cloche or fleece to extend the season of growth. You know, keep that growth a little bit faster than it would be if it wasn't protected. Growth's going to slow down dramatically as we get through to October. We're going to have harvested a lot of our carrots by now. There might still be a few standing, but I usually in September, I might sow a few in a container, leave it outside, and then when it starts to get cold, then move it into the greenhouse again. So you can have some containers of carrots in the greenhouse in November, December and through to January, or in a cold frame as well. They don't need a lot of heat, but it just protects them from the elements. So there we have it, our sort of timeline for successional cropping. There's other named examples in your notes, but carrot is a good one. Here I've tried to sort of summarise under the months the different activities or the different cultivars that you can use. So you can see in February you warm the soil and sow your early ones successionally, and then I changed to the rainbow mid-season, then I changed to autumn king and I sowed some in a container in June or July, and then early on we're going to protect, and late on we're going to protect to advance and extend the season. And then we could grow some in a container to overwinter in the greenhouse or cold frame. So I hope you've got all those named examples, and I hope that makes sense.